Welcome back to the Lion's Garden podcast. I'm your host, Annie Peguero. I'm the fear alchemist. If fear, self-doubt, or imposter syndrome is keeping you from feeling confident, clear, and in control of your life or leadership, you're not alone and you're in the right place. Imagine feeling focused, empowered, and fully aligned with your purpose, no longer held back by the stories you've been telling yourself. This podcast is where that transformation begins. I'm a leadership coach who's been in the trenches of fear and uncertainty. In 2010, I walked away from a career in federal law enforcement, leaving behind everything I thought defined me to create a life that aligned with my heart. As an adoptee, I've faced the lifelong challenge of navigating identity and unresolved fears. Through these experiences and from coaching clients for the past 25 years, I've developed tools to not just survive fear, but to transform it into fuel for bold action and meaningful impact. In the Lion's Garden podcast, we'll focus on how you want to feel clear, brave, and confident, and uncover what's standing in your way. Together, we'll explore practical strategies to help you overcome fear, set boundaries, and take action in your relationships, business, and leadership. This is your space to rewrite the story fear has been telling you. Together, we'll shape it into one of bravery, clarity, and unstoppable progress. Welcome to the Lion's Garden podcast. Here we go. Hey friends, it's Annie Peguero. Welcome back. It's episode 97. And as of today's recording, today's Thursday, December 5th, today's episode is about setting boundaries. And through my work with my clients and in social circles, boundaries is one thing that, people really struggle with, whether it's being able to find the words to set a boundary or, just realizing that the other person might be upset and not wanting to do that, not wanting to set a boundary. This episode is for you if any of these things are something that you struggle with. And the real beauty of it, if you're listening in real time, I have the Clarity Code Challenge going on right now. And this challenge is all about creating calm in chaos. It's to help you discover how to prioritize, set boundaries, make confident decisions so you can achieve balance and ease in 5 days or less. This is for busy people who want to make their daily life feel much easier. The challenge just opened up. It's happening right now. And if you can go to the link in here are the show notes or my website at thelionsgarden.com and really in all of my social media places to join the challenge. I can't wait to see you in there. So how do you set boundaries? What is the power of boundaries and redefining your success without burnout? Because oftentimes when you have no boundaries, or limited boundaries, right? And you say yes to too many things, or you're showing up at times of the day that don't work for you. This is all something that setting firm boundaries can help with. And boundaries are not walls, they're bridges. They define where your responsibility ends and somebody else's begins, allowing you to show up as your best self without overextending. So how many of you say yes to 8:30 meetings, right? Or agree to meet somebody at 9 a.m. for a meeting when you know that you are at your best around noon, right? If you have the flexibility to do that. And what about if you are in a 9-to-5 or corporate job and you're required to be somewhere in the early part of the day or the late part of the day, and you know that that's not when you are at your best. So this episode is going to help you set some boundaries as well as boundaries with your own family. Hello, boundaries with your spouse, boundaries with your kids, and allowing you to find that ease that you need in your life to avoid burnout. By definition, boundaries are limits that you set to protect your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being. And they really, really matter. I mean, how many of you just realize that you don't have any boundaries? You're kind of just like expecting people to do the right thing, or you're kind of in the moment type of operation, but they really, really matter to prevent burnout by ensuring that you have the energy for what truly matters to you, not what matters to literally every single person in your life, right? From your family to your work to your social circles. So what really matters to you? And when I ask my clients this question, sometimes they really don't know. They'll pause for a second and they'll be like, well, peace matters to me, or family matters to me, but they don't really know how to take the actions to have their life and their work reflect these values. Boundaries also build trust in relationships. People know where they stand. They know what to expect from you. They know that in your life, certain things are a priority, and they know that they can't really cross a line. And I love this one. Boundaries also enhance your own focus and productivity, right? Like, isn't the goal of setting boundaries and goals and having a vision of your life all about being able to focus on these things? And when you're spread too thin, you're all over the place, you're really operating by putting out fires, right? Like in reactive mode. So boundaries help to enhance focus and productivity by eliminating distractions and unnecessary obligations. Hello, unnecessary obligations. If you're a person who is like, all of my obligations are necessary, they're all necessary, I can't operate without all of these obligations, right? Listen to this episode because this is for you. So for me personally, I can recall a time where I really wanted to, be top of mind as a leadership coach, as a coach in the community. And I was showing up at like every single networking event and making it a point to go to a networking event once a week because I heard this type of goal from another person. I'm like, yeah, once a week, I can totally do that. Well, no, it was a hard no. And I got burnt out, right? I was showing up at things once a week, and it was too much for me personally. Recognizing that I needed to take a step back and really look at where I was showing up, what types of networking events I was making a priority, and if this was even, my ideal clients or my ideal community where I was showing up at these events, and do the people at these events have the ability to help introduce me to people who need leadership coaching. And that was a real kind of a struggle for me, honestly. I like going to events, so I like being in the room. But for me, it was more of pausing and saying, okay, is this really the best use of my time, right? Is this the best use of my time? And let me take a look from like a bird's eye view, right? Like up on the balcony, looking down at my life, business, and networking to see which thing is best for me. And you can apply this to social circles as well, right? Like if you're a person, you find yourself saying yes to, so many different activities and gatherings and things like that, especially around the holidays where there's FOMO, right? You don't want to miss out on these on fun, but you realize that after you leave the event, you're spent. You have to spend like 3 days, recovering and all the Epsom salt baths and get a massage and the whole deal. And you're realizing that, number one, you just took on all of the people that were in that room's problems because maybe the event or the gathering that you were at, people were complaining, or it was supposed to be a joyful gathering, but you ended up like in the corner chatting with somebody and having them unload their whole entire, life story on you. Yes, you provided an ear, but was it really the biggest benefit for that person? Did they walk away with a solution, right? And was it a really great use of your own personal time? So we've all been there. And there's no shame in that. So why do leaders struggle with boundaries? Leaders of organizations, businesses, government, military leaders, as well as leaders of families, stay-at-home moms, leaders of the house, right? So leaders often are taught to prioritize others. Hello, everybody know, right? If you're a mom, you get it, right? Moms are taught, put yourself last, prioritize others, prioritize the kids, prioritize the family. And the same thing with leaders of organizations, right? Like take a cut from yourself in order to give to the organization. Be present at every single thing. Like make sure that you're showing up ready and, the warrior's edge, right? That type of thing that we always talk about, always being available. But that mindset, that way of operating really does come at a cost. You have a fear of disappointing others. Leaders often worry about letting others down or appearing less capable. Instead of saying no, or not right now, or not at this time, you become fearful of letting somebody down. And that does come at a cost to your own mindset, your own wellness, your health. Your health can really, really suffer when you're saying yes to everything. There's also pressure. There's pressure to be everything for everyone. Cultural and professional expectations can really make it challenging, if not impossible, to say no. Is this you? I mean, I get it. There is no shame in it. Give yourself grace and just listen on, because I'm going to give you some strategies and some tips to really identify when is the time to show up or when is the time to set a boundary. Also, trauma. Trauma comes into play when setting or not setting boundaries. For trauma survivors, the fear of rejection or conflict can make setting a boundary feel impossible, right? That trauma response of overhelping, doing everything you possibly can to help somebody when they didn't even ask for help. Maybe they don't even want help. They're good to go. They're figuring it out. And you're like, I've got this. I'll help. I'll do this. Tell me what I can do. I was totally there, right? Over helping, over sharing, over everything, right? Just to feel like I was being helpful at a tremendous cost, a cost of spending time with my own family, working in my own business, and oftentimes losing a relationship or a friendship because of a need, oh my gosh, like an obligation to help when help wasn't really needed. So let's reflect on where you have been saying yes out of obligation rather than intention. That could be like saying yes, helping to try to, make something easier for somebody else, which inevitably comes at a cost for you when help isn't even really needed. Let's talk about how to set these boundaries, how to set effective boundaries. It's a skill. And like any other skill, it takes practice. But the payoff is so worth it. Clarity, peace, and more energy for the things that matter most. Oh, hey, speaking of clarity, I've got the Clarity Code Challenge going on right now as of December 5th. The Facebook group just opened and you can join this challenge. It's completely free. You can go over to my website at thelionsgarden.com. You can go to the link in the bio on my Instagram. You can also go to my Facebook and you'll see the link to join the Clarity Code Challenge. It's all about setting boundaries, saying yes to yourself, and making life easier in 5 days or less. I'll see you over there in the challenge. So step number 1 to setting effective boundaries is, number 1, get clear on your values. Your values. What is most important to you? Identify that. Is it family? Is it personal and professional growth, rest, creativity, and align your boundaries with these values? I had a conversation with somebody that I met at the Military Influencer Conference. His name is Travis. And my husband and I had a conversation with him. And Travis was like, I feel like you guys are saying yes all the time. I feel like you're saying yes to every opportunity, every, meetup or event or opportunity for business. And we're like, yeah, we kind of feel like we have to do that. And he's like, listen, he's like, I'm going to give you this tool. He's like, for everything on your calendar, put a little code or a symbol to things that are really going to fill your cup, that are going to feel amazing, that it's going to be a give and take, and not just a give, because that's another thing. We found that in so many of our interactions, whether it was personal or professional, we were the givers, okay? And we were always providing advice, coaching, strategies, all of the things, and people were taking, right? Like no fault of theirs. They're like, oh, they're offering this. Let me get in on this, right? And And we realized we were feeling really depleted. So Travis was like, put pluses next to everything that you have upcoming on your calendar that you know that you're going to walk away from that feeling really great. And put minuses next to the things that are draining your energy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have so many minuses. But after we did that, man, we really tightened up as a couple. We tightened up as a couple. Our communication got better. Our values as a family and as a couple and what we wanted to provide, the energy that we wanted in our own home. I mean, everything shifted and we became, well, I'm going to be honest, like our friend circle got a lot smaller. A lot smaller. And there was some FOMO in the beginning and, you know, a little bit of sadness, honestly, because we're like, man, did we do the right thing? And the answer is 100% resounding yes, we did, because we did the very, very best for our marriage, for our family, for our kids, and for our values. So take a look at your calendar and take a look at what you have coming up and recognize if the thing that you have going on, something that you have upcoming is draining, or if you know that you're going to walk away positive. Now, I don't mean, are you going to be tired after? I mean, yeah, you might be tired, but is it a benefit, right? Is it going to be a mutually beneficial engagement? And get very, very clear on your values, making sure that when you say yes, you are in alignment with the core of what is the priority for you. So another example, if family time is a priority for you, set a clear boundary around work hours, right? So for me, and I love using myself as an example, family time is so important. My kids get off the bus around 3:30, and I very rarely schedule anything after 3:30. And I had people say to me, well, Annie, isn't it important for your girls to see you working? And I'm like, yeah, it is, right? Like it is important for them to see me working, but they don't need to see me in coaching calls, because if I'm in a coaching call, all of my doors are closed. Like it's very soundproof in here and I'm not engaging with them. And I want to be there when they get off the bus. I want to hear about their day. I want to prepare a snack for them, right? And family time for me is such a priority that all of my coaching calls end by 3:00. It's very, very rare that I do anything after 3, unless it's something solo, like unless I'm doing something, on my own here in my office and my girls see me working then. But as far as engaging in a coaching session, the hours when my girls are home, I just don't do it. I used to, heck, if my clients had a 9 to 5 that they could not, squeeze in an hour during that time for coaching, I would just bend. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll meet you at 6:00. And that came at a tremendous risk for my own sanity, peace of mind, health, and my family. So I stopped doing that, and I really saw how our values rose to the top, and what is important to us was the most important. Step number 2, communicate clearly and kindly. So using direct language without over-explaining. So how many times have you been like, oh, I totally wish that I could do that, but I can't, and, blah, 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 blah. Like all of these reasons, all of this explanation why you can't do it. It's almost that you are trying to, reassure the person and, give yourself this out that it's not even needed. Just a simple, oh, I can't take this on right now because I need to focus on my family, or I can't meet you at that time because I make sure I am at home at 3:30 every single day. Or I would love to attend your networking event, but I actually am already going to something, this week and next. And that's it. And you leave it at that. You don't have to over explain. There's definitely quite a movement these days on the importance of not over explaining. So this is something that I really want to bring your attention to and ask you to be aware of. Are you over explaining when you have to say no to something, or when you say yes to something, but you realize you might cancel. Okay, you might cancel. So taking a moment, pausing and saying, okay, let me get back to you on whether or not I can be there. And taking some time, looking at your values, looking at your priorities, seeing if the thing aligns, and then getting back to the person. That is a really great way that you can avoid this over-explaining that so many people do. Step number 3, hold that boundary. Hold the boundary. Expect some pushback, right? Like somebody might say, oh, we really need you there. Or, this is the only time that I can be there. Please, meet me at 6 p.m. But you're like, okay, I hear you and I'm going to stay firm. Then reminding yourself why this boundary is important. Going back to your core values, going back to your priorities, your vision, your family, and what's important to you, and realizing this is not the time to over-explain. This is the time to be firm. When you're just starting to set boundaries and this feels a little real and raw to you, step number 4, start small. So practice setting boundaries in really low stakes situations to build confidence and to really practice and exercise this boundary setting muscle. So it could be with your children, with your spouse, with a dear friend. Boundaries are not just about saying no. They're about saying yes to what fuels you. And this is a conversation that I had with a client yesterday. Every single time that you say yes to something that is not aligned with your values, you are saying no to your values, right? So let me put this in a better perspective. Every time you say yes to attending 3 networking groups a week, you are saying no to working on things that move the needle in your business, income generating behaviors, or spending time with your family, or doing things that light you on fire, right? Like every single time you say yes to something that you know that you shouldn't say yes to, you're saying no to what really matters. And then the results, right? Like what happens when you have healthy boundaries in your life, when you stick to your boundaries? Well, transformation, enlightenment, expansion, improved relationships. People respect you and honor your time and recognize that you have values, right? And things that are important to you. And they know that they cannot interject themselves when you have these boundaries that are very clear. They respect you more when you respect yourself. And in the area of family, right? So when you have boundaries around your time, your efforts, around yourself, to your children will then begin to develop these boundaries for themselves. Like when they see it modeled by you, they are more likely to do this for themselves and to understand that boundaries are a very, very important thing to life. You'll have increased energy and focus. Boundaries free you from distractions and energy drains. So also, when you're saying yes to things that are an energetic drain for you, think about how long it takes you to come back, right? If you're anything like me, you're really sensitive to energy. You know that when you say yes to something and you don't really want to do the thing, it is all consuming, right? It can be, you find it hard to focus. You find yourself unable to do things like the day of this thing that you promised that you would do that you don't really want to do. It's going to be a drain, and then it takes you a long time to recover. So recognizing this energetic drain and setting a boundary to prevent it. Another benefit is greater self-worth. Setting boundaries sends a powerful message to yourself, right? It's not all about sending messages to other people and doing this for other people. It's doing this for yourself and saying this mantra, I am peace. I am peace, right? So when you say something like that to yourself, you develop this mantra of ease. you are reaffirming that you deserve peace, that you are deserving of ease. Did you just hear that thud? That was my cat. She knocked off my Yeti water bottle. And I need to set a boundary around this cat. She is out of control. And then speaking of mantras, in the Clarity Code Challenge, which is going on right now, and you can join us, it's at the link in my bio on Instagram. It's at my website at thelionsgarden.com. There is a mantra for every single day of the challenge, a mantra that is going to help you go inward and bring awareness to setting boundaries and to your value system, which is going to help bring so much peace, clarity, and ease in 2025. So to kind of wrap this up, boundaries are not barriers. They're pathways to a healthier, more aligned life. And remember, every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to something that fuels you, to your values, to your core beliefs and your core values as a human being and as a leader. Take the time to reflect. Where do you need stronger boundaries? What's one small step that you can take this week to honor yourself and your values? Until next time, my friends, stay brave, stay authentic, and keep leading with your heart. This is Annie Peguero, and thank you so much for listening to the Lions Garden podcast. I encourage you to book a call with me. You can book a free discovery call. It's right here in the show notes. You can also find it on my website at thelionsgarden.com, the link in my bio on Instagram, or just send me a message anywhere and we'll get a call booked so you can discover if leadership coaching is for you. I trust this episode has been so helpful. It would mean the world if you would leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or also on Google. So if you go over to Google, I think it's on Google Maps, and type in the Lions Garden and leave me a review there, I would be forever grateful. Talk to you next time.